Hey, so this is the Huky roaster, but it could be Huky roaster. And what we have today is people from the forum who are going to demonstrate the machine. We're going to do some roasts, and then we're going to like cup this kind of competition or just roast tasting from members of the Huky forum to see, for us to give some feedback on what kind of quality they're getting. So, Chris, what model is this of the Huky roaster?
This is considered the Huky Standard J, and he has an updated version where this exhaust pipe is different. It is a T-shape, and you can charge and cool at the same time. His selling point is you can do back-to-back charges without having to disassemble the whole roaster. Otherwise you have to pull the pipe off in between batches to clean up.
So, tell me quickly, how did you start roasting, and then how did you get to this level of roasting?
I started in just a cast iron. I just bought some coffee from you guys and on my patio, and over a barbecue flame, I just roasted some coffee, and I loved it. Me and my girlfriend started looking at different roasters, and we thought we can start with a popcorn popper, or we can just invest the money now instead of like slowly upgrading, which tends to be the trend on the coffee forums. Is people outgrow their roaster all the time. They want more, they want better control. So we just went straight into this one. It seemed like a good introduction for us, and I don't mind the learning curve, so it was perfect in our environment.
And it's a little technical too, but if somebody wanted to start roasting and bought this right away, they might and took it all on without ever having roasted. It might be a lot, because it's really great to see coffee turn brown under like simple conditions. Or maybe if they decide to do a little stovetop roasting and just see the process unfold in front of you, so you understand a little about what's happening here. So this model here is not stock. So can you tell me quickly, like, what are the things that you've changed in order to, and why did you have to change it from what you were shipped?
Sure. So the first thing was airflow. Mr. Li, who builds these in Taiwan, he intends for you to control the airflow with his damper. Now, from what I've read and from what others have reported, this is not as accurate. It's harder to predict how much airflow you're actually pushing through because there's no markers.
Right.
So the alternative is to use a light dimmer switch, or you can use a variac. The difference between the variac and a light switch dimmer is on a variac you get the voltage readings. So if I set it to 30% or 30 volts, it's going to be 30 volts pretty much all the time. And it's just more predictable for me to do it from batch to batch. Standard, he doesn't give you an extra funnel. He doesn't give you an extra fan or cooling tray. I bought those because I knew that I would do more than one batch at a time, and I didn't want to have to fuss around with disassembling it in between. I just wanted to be able to drop the coffee, cool the roast, and then prepare for my next batch.
Did you actually know to order this in advance, or did you do a second order with him?
I knew in advance.
You did it all?
Yeah, I did a lot of research. The Huky forum has a lot of pre-buying questions. There's a lot of stuff on Home Barista that I found.
Okay.
And these were things that people suggested. So before my first roast, I had everything I needed. Another thing that's optional, you can tell him that you want a digital thermocouple here, or you can get the analog gauge. So I went ahead and did the digital thermocouple because I knew I would be logging it to software. So I bought this fidget, which basically is just an electronic device that makes it easy to hook it up to your computer through USB.
Okay. And I mean, just on I don't want to, this isn't an advertisement for him, but we'll put the website, we'll put the forum website. But how much have you spent here? Just so people have an idea.
I would say maybe just shy of $2,000.
Okay. And the core machine, if you got the base, what would be?
I think they're between 15 and 1600, somewhere in that ballpark.
The capacity, what's the max capacity versus what you think is the best capacity?
I've gone as low as 180 grams. I don't like to go that low because the thermocouples seem really unstable. Events don't quite happen when, like in ideal ranges or predictable ranges. I try not to go below half a pound or 227 grams.
Is that a good sweet spot or a little higher?
Higher would be the sweet spot, but that's my bottom line. If I won't do a batch if it's anything less than half a pound. I've pushed it as high as 540 grams, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
I would do no more than a full pound.
And you have a little viewing window here. It's very much like a commercial roaster, and you have a trier.
Yes.
Which is nice. It's a nice little mini trier. That looks very nice. And the build is really good. The gauges of these metals, it's a really handsome machine. Then in order to, so you bring your cooling tray over, you cool here. How long is your roast times on average? What's your favorite kind of parameters on a roast?
My roast, it ranges probably anywhere between 11 minutes to 15, depending on what kind of coffee and whether or not I'm on point with all of my settings. You know, temperature changes everything. So on a cool day, it might take me a batch to figure out where my gas and airflow should be. On a hot day, it's gone faster than I anticipated, just because I wasn't ready for it.
He ships it with the burner, or you supply the burner yourself?
Actually, that's optional. So you can get just the roaster without the burner, and it's cheaper that way. Okay. But I bought the burner.
Okay, and I understand it comes with either a solid drum or perforated drum. Do you have a choice, or you can buy it as an accessory?
You have a choice. The standard drum is the perforated drum.
Okay.
He has an optional solid drum, which is what I have installed. I started off with the perforated drum. I wanted to experiment and play around, so I installed this solid drum, and that's what's on there now.
Okay, and have you stuck with that for a reason? Wow, that's amazing. That is really, that's solid. This is some serious metal fabrication here. Do you like the solid drum better?
I like them both. I mean, they have their own benefits. I think the solid drum is actually easier to roast on. It's a bit more forgiving. When you make changes to airflow or heat, it's slower to react. So that could be harder for some, but I found that it's actually easier.
I mean, for reference, almost all commercial roasters now are solid drums. But one thing I try to clarify is that roasting on very small batch scale, you don't necessarily just, we don't take a pro batch, shrink it down, and have a great roaster necessarily. So it doesn't follow necessarily that since larger commercial roasters are solid drums, that somehow there's something that wouldn't work about a perforated drum here. You just have to see. You have to judge it on its own merits. Great. Well, that's it's a really interesting option. And you said some people are doing commercial roasting as well.
On the forum, they talked about it. A few people.
Yeah.
Doing small commercial operations.
Because you can do back-to-back roasting, so even with the small capacity, that's great. And that's doing half pound and up. I'm sorry, you said the maximum is what?
A pound.
You could do a pound?
I've done over a pound, so that I get a pound of roasted coffee. Yeah. Okay. But I wouldn't recommend it. It's probably straining on the motor to stuff it that large every time. I also had to use more airflow to get more heat going through the drum.
Okay.
Otherwise, it just takes longer. So the sweet spot is probably 1 pound, 454 or 455 grams, roughly in that ballpark. that's probably on the high end that I wouldn't exceed that.
But in general, I mean, the neat thing here is there's this community base through the Huky forum that's supporting this machine, that's answering questions in advance, that's sort of sharing different customizations. Other roaster in there has a chaff cyclone that's built out of woodworking parts and a paint can, and you know, those kinds of things are shared. So there's a lot of support for this. You know, that seems to be one big advantage. I think if you were just out on your own, I mean, there's a lot of roasters on eBay, and there's nobody really talking about them. You rely entirely on the support from the company. So having this kind of internet group seems really critical. But
that was a deciding factor for me.
Yeah.
Of all the roasters I looked at, I picked this one because the community behind it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's really friendly. A lot of people just do it to be kind to the community. It's a good group of people to ask for help from.
Yeah. And if there was, you know, for Sweet Maria's, if there was any role we would take in a machine like this, we would, except they don't need us. I mean, we're here just basically to endorse this, but people order it directly from Taiwan, and they get their support through the forum, and we're just kind of, you know, we like this stuff because, as I told you, if I didn't have this business, I'd be this person with this. So it's just kind of along the lines of what we endorse and like and support in our own way. So. Cool. Thanks a lot for sharing the Huky or
Thanks for having
Huky.
us.
No one's done a pronunciation
Huky.
yet? Okay.
Huky. I've asked. I've had email threads with Mr. Lee,
Yeah.
who builds these, and he
Right.
says Huky.
And is there a meaning behind the name, or?
His dog.
Okay.
He has a husky named Huky,
Okay.
and it actually there's an emblem on it.
Oh yeah,
And
there you
that's-
go. Oh, how cool.
That's his dog.
It's another Dogs of Coffee connection here. Great. Thanks a lot.